everybody always asks me that, one of the first questions I get is how much is it going to cost to do it, um, and that's an easy question to answer and a hard question to answer. In both, it's both, because the analogy I always use is that, if you decide, if you bought a house and you decided you were going to renovate a room in that house, and you ask someone, well, how much is it going to cost to redo a bathroom, for example? Literally, it could cost, there's the minimum amount it could cost if you're going to go to Home Depot and buy the fixtures yourself and do some of the work yourself. And then there's the amount that it would cost to, if money was no object. If you're going to put in gold-plated fixtures and all kinds of crazy tile, it could cost anything. So I think it goes back to what we were talking about before, and that it's important for me, it's important for the teacher, independent of whether you're working with somebody or not, to go into the process with a firm idea of what you want to get out of it at the end. It doesn't mean that you know specifically what the title is. It doesn't even necessarily mean that you know exactly what the subject is going to be. I think you need to come into it and say, at the end of the day, I want to have this in my hand, and this is the goal that I want to accomplish, with that thing, whatever it is. It could be a video, it could be a book, it could be an ebook, whatever the thing is. And then when you have that goal in mind and you have what you want to hold in your hand at the end in mind, you can talk to somebody like me, and I can say, well, if you use the best designers, if you use the best photographers, if you have someone like me do this amount of work, it's going to cost this amount of money. And then, just like any other project, there are ways for it to cost more money or less money. And I think everyone, to a man, everyone I've dealt with when I do this feels like the production value of what comes out at the other end has been worth the investment. Now, does that necessarily mean that everybody's sold, 1 million copies in week one? No, but it means that, at the end of the day, you're proud of what you hold in your hands at the end. And I would encourage anybody who's going to do this, whether they use a professional writer like me or any kind of service, what you want to be able to do is, at the end of it, be proud of what you're holding in your hand. And so I think you want to make decisions in that process that if you're going to spend X amount of money, whether it's $500 or $5,000 or $15,000, my advice would be to spend the money in the places that are going to lead to you holding something in your hand that you're proud of. And that might mean the photography, it might mean the design, it might mean having someone help you write it. I know Brandon was saying in his answer that, or in his Q&A, that if he didn't use someone to help him, with the writing, he would still be on page one. It wouldn't exist. And for a busy person who has a full book, that you can't underestimate how the value of that. And but I think the most disappointing thing would be not doing it all at all. And the second most disappointing thing would be putting in a huge amount of time, and it does take a lot of time. Even if you're not the one writing it, it's a commitment of time for sure. To put in all that time and effort on something, and then hold it in your hand at the end and have it not be what you wanted. I think that would be a big disappointment. So my advice would be to certainly not spend some crazy amount of money just to write a book, but to invest that money in something that's going to make you feel proud of what you're holding in your hand at the end.
What would be spending a crazy amount of money on a book?
You could spend. I mean, if you wanted, when you're working with, when I'm doing a project, it roughly is going to net out to about $1 a word for what I do for people. So if you're going to try to produce, The Shining, Stephen King's book, some big thick book, I mean that's probably 100,000 word book. It's a dictionary. That's a huge project that's going to take a year and cost a lot of money. And if you hired, some of the best, J.D. Cuban or Dom Farrar, two of the best golf photographers I know, a photo shoot with those guys is going to be $8,000 or $9,000. And if you hire a top designer, and I mean, you could, if you wanted to, you could spend $100,000 to do a book. And if you're, let's say, Phil Mickelson wanted to self-publish a book, that makes sense. It makes sense to invest and use those guys, because all those things make for a more efficient, more beautiful product. And if Phil Mickelson sells, 500,000 copies of whatever he's going to do, that makes a lot of sense. And so then, the spectrum slides. If you're going to market your book and the goal is to sell 5,000 copies in year one, it's going to give you a pretty good barometer of of what neighborhood you should be living in terms of what you invest to make it happen.
And if people want to make their book happen and work with you, the website or email they should get in touch with you at is?
They can go to MatthewRudy.net. That's got everything, all the current things that I'm doing and examples of the ones that I've done in the past. I mean, you can go on Amazon and type in my name, and you'll see all the ones that I've been a part of, and you know what they look like, and the variety of sizes and shapes and things. And anybody can email me anytime. It doesn't even have to be for a project. Like I said before, I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has, because I'm most interested in having somebody get to the end of this with something they can be proud of. And if that means doing it themselves, and you know something I say can give them a little bit of a boost to get over the finish line, I'm happy to do that too. And that I'm at matthew.rudy@gmail.com, or you can email me from my website too. There's a link there.